Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mid-Tier Thoughts. It's me, your host, Austin. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you guys all had a great Thanksgiving. Welcome back to Mid-Tier Thoughts, everybody. This is your host, Austin. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. As we roll into that time of the year with lots of seasonal stuff and sales, until I decide to no longer do it, I am doing basically a Black Friday continuation. There will be a sale at www.midtierthoughts.com. You enter the code MID10, which is mid10. You will get 10% off of your order, and you can get all of our excellent merchandise and support our show at a discount. So that sale will be continuing basically until I decide to stop it, at least through probably this next week. So get your stuff while you can at a discount. So now that I've paid the bills, let's roll into it. So as we all know, at least those of us in the U.S., this last week we all had Thanksgiving, which is a time for us all to spend some time with family. Probably have a few political fights or sports team rivalries around the dinner table. Talk smack to the cousin you haven't seen in 6 years. Watch a football game, eat some turkey. Be thankful for the things God gave you and the people He put in your life, and just kind of reflect on what you're thankful for. And I think there's a lot of lessons we can take from kind of the traditional story of Thanksgiving, and we can apply to a modern day Minuteman setting. So, uh, if you'll bear with me, that's kind of what I intend to do here a little bit. I think if we all kind of remember, basically the summed up story, the Sunday school version, I guess, the elementary school version of this, is that you had a bunch of people that we came to know as pilgrims that escaped England due to a tyrannical rule over religion, where you had to either be a part of the state church or you had to pay money to worship separately. And these people wanted religious freedom, so they left the country and started a colony. We all know the joke. Not the joke, but the old things we learned in school, like how the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock. And we all know that come the first winter, a lot of these pilgrims, they weren't as well off as they thought they were doing, as they thought they would be. Crops didn't grow or were planted too late. The timing was off, and long story short, there wasn't enough food, and a lot of people went really hungry. And unfortunately, the unfortunate side of this was, a lot of people wound up dying off, and the colony was actually at one point on the verge of failure. And at this point in time, there'd kind of been a little bit of rapport built amongst the natives, amongst the Indians, the Native Americans, whatever you want to call them, who would finally come over and had started trading and discussing, negotiations with the Pilgrims. And basically, long story short, we both had what each other needed. We had more advanced weapons and armor, with steel swords, breastplates, rifles, or muskets, I guess, at that time. And, the Native Americans had the knowledge and the food and the skills to be able to replenish supplies, to grow food, and to basically teach us how to survive. So we were able to exchange goods and services. Part of that did involve, historically, that we did help the tribe that helped us fight another neighboring tribe, and with the superior arms and armor. And in return, they did teach us how to survive. We were able to grow crops, and we were able to take those crops and then I mean, by we, I mean the Pilgrims, of course, take those crops and then being able to basically have a feast come the next time and time around, and kind of represent that first Thanksgiving. I know historically that's kind of the down and dirty of it, but if we take some of the things we can see from there, I think that there's a lot that can kind of transfer over. And I think if you look at like your average American today, a lot of them, I think, like the Pilgrims, think that in the event of a disaster or an emergency, that they are prepared, that they are ready to go, that they have what they need, and that they will be able to, whatever their version of crossing the Atlantic and establish a new colony, right, would be. That whether that be, the lights have gone off and they're never coming back on, they'll be able to go out, plant their food, and they'll be just fine. They'll turn their front yard into a garden. That's all they'll need, and they'll be able to survive. Um, I think it's a sad reality, just like it was for a lot of those pilgrims, that they're not as prepared as they thought they were, that it's not as easy of a journey as many people think it is. I think most of us on this podcast that listen to this know this. I think that's part of the reason why you guys keep coming back, is we're all kind of in the same mindset that we know it's not going to be easy, and we know that there are things that we don't know. And that's where, again, coming to this, the Pilgrims had to acknowledge that they didn't know how the proper ways to do things in this new land, and they had to learn from those who did, and they had to seek out that knowledge, and they had to, come to those and make a mutual agreement with the people who did. And I think that for those of us who do have skill sets, for those of us who are prepared, much like the Indians who approached the Pilgrims, I think we need to be ready mentally and in a way to communicate to our communities and to our neighbors in the event of those dangers that, like, hey, we can help you. We know what to do. There's a time and place for that, and there's the ability, I think, to use your head to critically think about when that time to step forward is. But I think that that's something that we all need to consider, right? Is that had the Native Americans not stepped in and been like, hey, we can help out. We can show you these things. Like, there's a very strong likelihood that colony would have failed. There's a very strong likelihood that the next winter, a lot of them would have been dead. So when we look at this as an example, I think, putting it in a more modern sense, let's say, for example, an EMP hits. If you have skill sets that you see your community needs in a time of need like that, I think that it's a better approach to step forward and to help out people when you see them struggling than it is to just sit back and let it happen. That being able to come forward and just take that step forward and to be able to show others, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what we need to do to survive. Now, in the Thanksgiving example was how to grow food, and how to make sure that the crops came up right and, at the right timing and everything like this. So it was more food related. But nowadays, for some of us, if it's a Minuteman type scenario, do the people around you know how to create a community watch? Do you have a certain set of skills? I know I've talked before about like firefighting. Did someone's house catch on fire, and you're trying to figure out, like, hey, there's no fire truck coming. How do we keep this from spreading to the whole town? Things like this, right? Are you a mechanic and you see people trying to fix something? Are you an engineer and you could lend your hand? Are you a doctor? Do you have medical skills that you could apply to your community? This idea that I think gets into a lot of groups where it's either I'm for myself or I'm just for my tiny group. And, the eight of us in, my little goon boy squad, we're going to hold up and we're just going to, the rest of the world can burn. I think that's the wrong mentality to have, personally. And I think that we could learn a lot from this original Thanksgiving scenario of looking at this and saying, like, hey, look, we could step forward and, be able to help people and like make these new communities and make these new friendships and step forward in a time of need and to use a skill set that we have and be able to help others prosper. I think that's something that really, I think, to me, is the biggest part about this, like, kind of modern Minuteman life. We talk a lot about the gear and the guns and the tactics, which are all the cool, sexy part. But the part I think we talk the least about, that needs to be talked the most about, is the idea of, like, we are basically saying, by living this life, that we are willing to put our lives on the lines to help our community. That's really what this comes down to. You're willing to step forth with a skill set, with a tool set, with a mindset, and be able to jump into dangerous situations potentially and help your neighbors around you who were not prepared. I know a lot of the things is like the idea of, oh, my neighbor comes to my house and is like, hey, like the whole, hey, can I buy a gun? Or, hey, can I borrow a gun? The guy who didn't buy any guns, didn't do any preparedness, and now things have gone south. And it's like, oh, yeah, get lost, buddy. You're screwed. And I know it's funny to joke about that, and I know we make funny memes, and I do the same thing. But when it comes down to the reality of it, again, I think, I guess it kind of depends on the kind of person you are and your outlook on this, but I kind of look at it to say, I was prepared and I was able to prepare myself. And if you are in a position to, with the ability that you have, both financially, both, supply wise, skill set wise. If you are in a position to where you can help that guy out, the guy that's like, hey, I didn't ever stocked up and now I'm out of food. I think that, you can make a lot of positives there. There's a lot of positives with that. And I think like you can make those good relationships. You can be that guy's hero essentially, and you can buy some pretty goodwill with that. When we look back at this story historically, who's the hero of the Pilgrims of the story of the Pilgrims, right? It's the Indians coming in and basically saving them by teaching them how to grow their food. They're the ones that are looked at as the heroes of this Thanksgiving story. Not as much the Pilgrims. They're looked at more as like the damsel in distress, I would say. So you can use that to your advantage to a certain extent and be able to help you, but be able to help your community and get that goodwill. And a lot of, I think, the Minuteman community would be served by bettering the public image. The media already hates what we do. A lot of people don't understand the way we live. And that's why a lot of us, have a hard time talking about it with people, or have a hard time building that sense of community because you don't want to feel like the outsider or the weirdo. But, me and Mike have talked before and have said, when you actually get out and you go talk to people, you might find that you're not the only one there, and you're not the weirdo. Other people feel like that too. But, they just don't know where to start, or they were too scared to speak up. So they never did anything. They never learned what they needed to learn. They never got that community that they wanted. And so they got disheartened and they fell out of it. But, long story short out of this, I think that you can learn a lot from the idea of the Thanksgiving, not just being thankful for what you have and for your family, which you should be. But, looking at like what actually happened there and using that as an example for your life moving forward and being like, I don't want to be in the position of the Pilgrims where I'm having to be like, oh crap, we're going to die if nobody else comes along to help us. I want to be in the position of the guy who's able to come forward and be like, hey, I see that you're struggling. I see that you're having problems. I see that you're having issues. I know how to solve this. I'm here to help you, right? I think that there's a lot more to be said for that. I think that there's a lot more for the Minuteman community to be served going about that route. I think that that's really what this is all about, right? Like why do we prep? Why do we stock up on stuff? Yes, it's to help ourselves and to help our families, but also to help others. That's, I think, the biggest thing for people who want to be a modern Minuteman is we all generally tend to have a sense of the idea of helping people. We all want to help. We all have that sense of wanting to help our neighbors and to help other people out. So again, just coming back to it, to beat a dead horse, the idea is that we're here to help other people. That's the main goal of this. To help ourselves, to help our families, and as soon as we can do that, and we've got those boxes checked, to help our communities. I think one of the biggest things that's lacking in the Minuteman community is the idea of community outreach. I know a lot of us will do, meetups or meet and greets with, going out and shooting and stuff, or, holding a preparedness class or a 20-mile hike. I've seen different people do stuff like that. And it's cool to get people in to do the sexy stuff and to build your tribe. But one of the things I don't see a lot, and, I'll say this, in the Minuteman community, in the group of people like this, I see a lot of the people give the like actual militia dudes a bunch of shit, right? Like the AP, like the American Patriots, 3%er groups, things like that. I see a lot of people give them a lot of shit. And granted, like, look, there's a lot of them that are pretty fuddy. I understand. I understand the idea of the overweight, Punisher skull, blah, 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 blah. I get it. But what a lot of those guys are doing that I don't see groups on the on Instagram doing is they're doing community outreach stuff. They're putting together bags of goods for the homeless and going out and building goodwill with the community. Maybe they're wearing M81 Woodland, jackets that are 3 sizes too small and Punisher skulls everywhere, but they're going out and helping out feeding the homeless or feeding Gold Star families. I know there's a group I used to train with a lot that, from an outside perspective, I could understand a lot of people would kind of look at them as more of a three percenter style group. But, that was the one thing that I think that was really awesome about them was every Thanksgiving and they would put together a meal for a Gold Star family. And for those that don't know, a Gold Star family is a family of someone who had who had a family member who passed away or who was killed in action in the military. And so these guys would go out and we would all get food together and we would provide them a meal on our own dime. We would go to the dollar store. We would put together bags for the homeless. We would go out and give these things to the homeless. There was multiple things where a year throughout the year that we would go do that we're building this goodwill, building this idea of community. I think that's a lot of the stuff that I think is lacking in this like Minuteman group stuff, and I'm not saying you guys, maybe it's just because you guys aren't putting it all over Instagram and, kudos for you if you're doing it and not shouting it out. That's a positive because, if you're doing good things, you shouldn't be doing them for the clout. You should be doing them because they're good stuff to do. That's something I don't see a lot of, like I can't, I can watch the 1,050-second gear review of the same chest rig that everyone else has done a gear review on, or the same backpack loadout that the last 15 people have done. But I want to see some more stuff about like how are you committing to your community? How are you helping your community grow? How are you reaching out and helping those that need help? Right? The idea of the Minutemen originally, and, if we advance time from the Pilgrims to, the actual 1775, not only was it to respond in less than a minute and be able to form up and, ward away danger, but these were members of their community and they took care of each other. These were people that, if they knew one of their buddies fell, they were going to go take care of his family. Like that's the level of the commitment that these guys had. They weren't just like 8 dudes across the town, across town riding up together and just being like, all right, time to go shoot at sticks, in the woods. They were active parts of their community. They were involved. They were doing things. They were helping others. And I think that's something that's just been kind of on my heart lately is that I really want to see some more of that in this type of community. And one, I think it'll help change the public image a little bit. And two, I think that, none of us should be ashamed of what we do. And I think the best way to be unashamed of that is to change, is towards helping change public opinion. And the best way to do that is to go out and do good things. Look, it's the Christmas season, right? So it's really easy to get away with doing good stuff right now because no one's going to bat any weird eyes or be like, why are you doing that, right? Go out with your buddies. Each get 5 buddies, each commit to spending $20 and buy a handful of things at the dollar store, throw them in some Ziploc bags, go out to your local community, hand them out to the homeless, build some hygiene kits with some socks and, hats or something, right? Find a veteran in your community or someone struggling or, that single mother that's working 3 jobs and can't afford to get her kids toys, and go buy some toys for those kids. Go help somebody out. Go shovel your neighbor's driveway. Go do a canned food drive, Do something for your community that's more than just going out to shoot in the woods. Yes, we need to be prepared. Yes, we need to be ready to do acts of violence to protect our family and our friends. But we also need to be ready for in times of peace to be able to help our community. Not everything is guns and bullets, right? You're not going to be a very successful group of people in any kind of disaster scenario if you're solely based on kicking indoors and shooting bad guys, because even in the worst of collapses, a lot of the time spent is not in combat. We can look at all kinds of countries collapsing. A lot of time is going to be spent trying to survive, trying to keep your community good to go. Not so much hiding out in the woods and shooting at anyone that crosses the red line. A lot of your time is going to be spent just making sure you and your family are okay. And I think one of the best ways to do that again is to help out your community. That's always been a big part for me, is trying to do things. One, because, I don't know, just part of my life philosophy is just doing good things because they're the right things to do. And to be an active part of your community and to find where you can help out in it. And again, I do think that is something I wish I could see more of in groups that do like all these really cool training photos and videos and stuff you see on Instagram. Like, it's super awesome. Don't get me wrong. You guys are killing it on that field out there. I think of, I don't want to name any groups because I don't know if they want to be named on here or anything, but I know there's some groups locally. I know there's some groups around the country that I follow on Instagram that, they're out there every day. They'll be out there 4 feet of snow in snowshoes, full winter kit, doing some exercises. It looks awesome, and I'm sure they're absolutely killing it. And I'm not trying to dog on those guys. But I think what would be also just as equally awesome is seeing those same dudes um, in plain clothes, going out, running the soup kitchen, something like that. I think to me that's just as equally awesome because that's when we're putting our money where our mouth is. We're not just flat range operators at that point. Like, we actually have a heart for people. We actually have a mindset that is there to help people and to show them that, like, look, we're not a threat. Like, we're here to help. That's the whole idea. The government's not going to do it. Military's not going to do it. Police aren't going to do it. Local agencies aren't going to do it. We've all seen throughout the country the failures of local governments at every level trying to, combat homelessness and, hunger and poverty and all these other issues. And I know that a lot of us out there too are financially struggling. So I know it might be hard to ask that. And then I know that some of us maybe on the other end of, this speaker, or on the other end of hearing this, you might be that person that's hoping that, someone brings your kids presents, um, or whatever, whatever your financial situation is. I understand we're all kind of struggling, with the way the economy is, but that's the thing, is like going out and finding those ways that you can help however you can. I think that's just as vital as making sure that you've got gear, kit, and equipment. I think that is just as important and just as big a part of being a Minuteman and having this kind of lifestyle that we talk about here on this channel. To me, it's a big part of it. It's just kind of that idea of see a need, fill a need, and the idea of how can you serve somebody, how can you serve others. And a lot of times, too, what you'll find is that when you're doing those things, the people that you're trying to look for to help grow a tribe, they will generally kind of gravitate towards that. Like-minded people, people who also have a heart to serve others, people who also want that fellowship will generally tend to flock towards that. They want to be a part of something, and they see somebody who's doing something, and they want to be a part of that. I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people have right now is they see some of the stuff going on out in the world, and they see all these issues. They see things, um, like like uh, like child sex trafficking, or mass poverty and homelessness issues, and all these different things, and they're thinking to themselves, like, this is terrible and I hate this that this is going on, but like, what can I do? I'm one person. Like, how can I do this? What can I do? And it's like you're just sitting there and you're like, man, the world is going to hell, and I don't know what to do about it. Like, I feel the need to do something, but what can I do? Well, what you can do, right, is find something that's solvable and go out and solve it, right? Understand that you're not going to solve the homelessness crisis as one man, but what you can do is you can go out and you can provide something to people that really need it. You're not going to solve hunger as one man, but you can go out and pick one family and help them out. You're not going to solve poverty as one man, but you can get the guys together and go give somebody a Christmas, give somebody a Christmas that might not get one. Um, you're not going to solve child sex trafficking, uh, but you can go beat the shit out of a pedophile. You know, small things, one step at a time. So, there's certain things you can do, and I think that's where it comes down to. It says don't focus on what you can't solve, focus on what you can. Get your guys together and go out and solve a problem. If you have an elderly neighbor, well, is there something you can do for them? Do you have, a local vet that's struggling, or just a normal family that's struggling? Is there something you can do, something you can provide, something you can help out with? Because my biggest thing is, if you don't do that now, and you don't do that when it costs you nothing outside of, I mean, I say cost you nothing. Obviously, I'm asking you to spend a little bit of money, but like when you do it now, when it's not as big of a burden, when, the lights are all on. We're not in the middle of a war. There's nothing like there's no disaster, right? If you can't do it now, the likelihood of you doing it in a dangerous time period in a bad scenario is less. Um, I don't believe that you're going to do it if you don't do it now. So that's something I think I would like to see. And I was just kind of thinking about that, reflecting back on Thanksgiving and kind of, as what things I would like to see moving forward. I know it's not quite the end of the year yet, but we're getting, towards December and then eventually the end of the year, and thinking about, looking back and all the things I'm thankful for this year. It's kind of made me think, what am I thankful for? What has happened this year? What would I like to see in the future? And that's really the biggest thing for me is I think that as cool as the gears and guns and the ammo part is, like, believe me, dude, I am all about it. That stuff is the sexy side. I want to see what's going to, like, what I want to see moving forward, what I want to see in my 2024 is more Minutemen being involved in their communities, getting more people involved. Like, I want to see, if you want to, if you're not quite sure how, and you don't think that, like, the idea of um, anything that I promoted so far, like, really gets your goat, and you're like, yeah, I don't want to go feed the homeless, or I'm against it, or whatever. Like, okay, great, fine, whatever. You like bushcraft? Sick. Host, like, make a sign and host a free class in the park on how to start a fire or how to do something, right? Like, I don't know, like, reach out to your local community. Obviously, this is going to depend on where you live and legalities and everything else, but, like, even if you just want to do a thing where, maybe you host a free land nav course or host a fire making course or a range session, something like that, um, it's something, I mean, I think you'd be better served reaching out to your actual community, but if that's where you feel like you're better served doing it, then do that. But and find a way to give back. Find a way to help your community get better. And a lot of times you'll make connections in that community that will help you in the long run. That will open new doors for you. That will create new networks for you. You might even get more people for your tribe out of that. Who knows? But I think that's a good place to start. I think that's a good thing that I want to see moving forward. Um, I think that would make, again, going back to the Thanksgiving example, I think that, again, the hero of that story being the Indians coming into helping the Pilgrims survive. I think that's where the role you can fulfill. You don't want to be on the other end of that, and I think a lot of us realistically, in some way, shape, or form, probably will be. There's always stuff we don't know. And so we can't expect other people to step forward and help us or to tell us how to survive or how to get those skill sets that we need if we're never stepping forward to do it ourselves. Um, I think that's a big thing that we forget a lot of times is that we are, whether you want to be or not, or whether you actively are or not, you are a part of a community, of a town, of a city, wherever you're at. You are a part of an active part of a community, whether you are actively engaged in that community or not. And I just want to see more people take ownership of that and take responsibility for that and see their people prosper. That to me, I think, would be the biggest thing moving forward that could make the idea of being a modern Minuteman the next big thing. Way more than, who's running the hottest new rifle with the coolest new suppressor and the latest and greatest in, attachments or camo patterns or Molly webbing or whatever. Like that to me, I think would be the biggest thing. If I could go on Instagram this time next year and I see eight different groups that are going out and putting meals together for people on their own just because they did. They've heard about someone who's in need. They put a bunch of stuff together and they went out and they did it. Or they went to a local church and I'm like, hey, we're just a group of dudes. You don't even have to be affiliated with that church. You're just like, hey, we're a group of people. We want to help. We want to put like $100 together and buy somebody a Thanksgiving dinner. Is there someone that could really use one? We just want to bless somebody like that. I think that would be an awesome thing to see. I think that would build a lot of goodwill. I think it would change the community that you're in. It would definitely change that person's life. Simple things like prime. Going back to this prime example, um, there was a guy that I used to drive by his house every day on my way to work, and he had a flagpole and he had three flags. He had an American flag, a Navy flag, and the Navy's version of the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, the Navy Jack. Which, for those that aren't familiar with it, it's the 13 red and white stripes with the snake, or the rattlesnake, is uncoiled and striking, and says "Don't tread on me." So throughout the years, I started to notice these flags were just beat and weathered and torn and just ripped to pieces. And I felt really bad looking at them, and it kind of upset me at first. I'm like, man, this guy's flags look terrible, and someone needs to do something about it. Well, finally, we just got together, and me and a couple guys, and we just bought the flags. And so we went over, knocked on his door. No one answered. No one answered. No one answered. The three times we knocked, and so finally we just went over, and his flagpole was one that you could bend down, and it was over in the corner of his yard. So we just bent down, took the old flags off, folded them up nicely, put the new ones on, put the folded flags with a note on the door, and it was an anonymous note, and walked away. And well, let me rephrase that. It was an anonymous in the sense that we didn't put anybody's name on it. But my buddy had put his phone number on there that said if they needed anything to call the number. And the guy's wife calls us. Come to find out, this guy was a uh, Navy Seabee, and he was a double amputee. And that by swapping out those flags for him, like the way that she said it, we didn't just make his day, like we made his whole year. Like we changed that dude's entire outlook on life because we were random strangers that did something nice for them in that regard, and that's what I'm talking about. That's what it's all about is doing that kind of stuff for your community. For me, I have way more respect for people doing that than someone that's got, a sub-second draw. Like, that's dope, right? Sure, you've got a sick, super awesome draw. I know a lot of people that can shoot really fast that are fucking dicks, like just complete douchebag assholes that I wouldn't want to spend a minute with outside of any, in any capacity outside of when I absolutely have to. Um, I'd much rather have a bunch of dudes on my with me that are community minded like that we could train to get to that point than dudes that are complete dickheads, but they can run a gun, right? And in the long run, I think that's the whole idea is we're trying to build community, trying to build change and be and see and the change that we want to see in our country. And our country has gone to shit. We all know this. Um, but it's not going to get any better if we don't do anything about it. And so for me, that's the biggest thing is moving forward in that regard and taking ownership for the things that I can change and the things that I will change and the things in my community that I see that are a problem that I actually have the ability to do something about. I can't stop crime across the board. I can't solve world hunger or poverty or everything that's going on. I can't solve every issue, but I can change one person's day. I can solve an issue for one person. I can fix one problem at a time. Uh, you think of it like those stories you hear about people who see like the potholes the government never fixes, so they go out and they just start filling them up. You know, like yeah, they're not going to fix the whole road, but they fixed one street or one pothole, and they can do it one pothole at a time. That's what I'm saying. Is you don't have to fix the whole road. You can just go do the one little thing you can as you can. And for me, I think it would be really exciting to see more groups doing stuff like that. Definitely keep the good content coming with the educational stuff, which I think that's been a really big positive in my eyes, is seeing more educational posts on Instagram and less like goon boy LARPing stuff. I really like seeing other people. One, I like seeing all the other podcasts that have sprung up, which is amazing. That's awesome. I know like the Grape Hills got one out there that's really good. Punching Primers has got one that's pretty good. So, getting out there and using those spaces to push good ideas and good education and get those different thoughts and theories about how to do things. I think that's awesome. And I think that's a great thing that Instagram has kind of, at least my Instagram feed has kind of evolved into, is seeing more and more of that and less of like the hype beast type crap. Because again, I care way less about your 1R1 times or how quickly you can do a build drill. And I care way more about your ability to work in a team and to be a part of a community. Because you can train anyone, well, within reason, you can train a lot of people to run a gun. You can get someone to that point. The care and ownership of your community is not as easily trainable. So for me, it's more like that. I want people that can work as a team and work as part of a community and help build them up to where I want them to be tactically, gear wise, gun wise, all that, than the other way around. So that's just my philosophy on it. I'm sure there's other people out here who may not feel the same on that, but ultimately, I think it comes down to, you know, if you're going to take ownership for your own survival and your own self defense, once you've accomplished those certain tasks, once you feel like you're like, okay, I am good to go for myself, I am good to go for my family, where else can I fill a need? That should be an ongoing thing to where you could always be trying to help somebody else. Because you know what the best way to build a tribe is? Is to go out and build that actual community. You know, find that person that needs help, right? That family that's struggling, and then when you help them out, like you might find out, hey, we have shared ideals. This person's actually really awesome. This is a really cool guy. How did I not know this guy before? Like this dude's awesome. You'll think back to, I think it was last episode when I was talking to Mike, where his neighbor came out and just introduced and started talking, and they started talking about guns. And not only was his neighbor into guns, he was actually into guns, like good stuff, not just like, grandpa's lever action or, 870 Wingmaster. He actually knew what he was talking about. But that conversation never would have happened had they not kind of built a sense of community, and his neighbors are taking care of him and he's taking care of them, and they're seeing needs and they're filling needs. I know, Mike's neighbors are super awesome. They've been helping him out a lot with, he's got a baby on the way they've been helping him with giving him a bunch of stuff for a baby. Um, and that's something that I think that it's awesome that to see. And maybe in our world with this, if again, if going out and helping people is not quite your thing, or you really just don't know what you want to do, don't forget that like you can help out the people who are already in your community, who are already in your tribe. Maybe there's that guy who he's new to this and he doesn't really know how like his way around gear. Help him with maybe you've got a few things you can help him get him outfitted with. Maybe you've got a few things that a few pointers or tips you could be like, okay, well, hey, how about you go buy this instead of wasting all your money on all this Amazon crap? There are ways around that to where you can be a guiding light for somebody. You can be a better part of that community. So ultimately what it comes down to is whatever part of the community whatever your community is, whatever you're viewing that as, whether it be your Minuteman group, whether it be your community at large, find a way to give back to it, to make it better, and to invest in it. You already invest in yourself, you already invest in your family through self-defense and through your survival. Do so with your community, and you already see the dividends that you get from that with yourself and with your family. Now see what happens with the dividends of that you get from your community. The worst case scenario is that you invest in your community, and the only thing that happens is the problems that you solve get solved. Well, the people that you helped, you've changed their outlook on that. There are so many people. You think about things like, um, seeing a car accident. How many people just keep on driving? How many people do you actually see stop, get out, and help versus the number of people who just keep on driving? You watch these videos on the internet. There's one they do all the time where they'll have like a kid walk along and some dude will come up and like snag them and walk down an alley. And it's always like a social experiment to see if anyone will intervene. And you'll see tons of people walk by. The video will be like 2 minutes long and that'll show like 40 people walk by and like one person will come up and be like, no, get out of here. Be that one person. Be that one person in your community that pulls over and checks on the guy at the car accident. Be that one person who, helps the little old lady cross the street or whatever it is. Be that one person, because if you don't, then nobody else might be, right? And if we all talk about like how crappy the country's gotten, how bad things are, like all these things, this doom and gloom. It's not going to change if we're not doing the change. We are the only ones that can make it better. And so we need to go out there and we need to take that step forward and take that ownership and have that like Thanksgiving spirit and go do something about it. So my challenge to everyone listening, will flood Instagram with the pics of you guys going out and doing awesome stuff, and helping out your community. I want to see people tag mid tier thoughts, tag not the ATFAJ, tag Mike Travis dot 31. I'll put all our Insta stuff in the description. I want to see you guys out there. That is my challenge to you. Between now and the end of the year, find someone in your community that you can help, whether it be helping out the homeless, whether it be helping out someone who's having a hard time with Christmas or anything. Find a need and fill it. Find a way to help your community get better. Find a way that you personally can have an impact on a problem that exists in your area. That's what I want to see. I want to see people out there doing that. We can get back to, the goon boy stuff in the woods, and we can keep doing that. But I want to see people going out and finding a way to better serve their community, to better help their community, to better solve problems that they are capable of solving at their level. That I think, that for me would be the best Christmas present ever. Is just seeing all the people that follow this going out and helping give back in that regard, and showing the world that like, hey, I'm not some crazy dude who just cuddles my guns and hides in a bunker waiting for the end of the world. I'm out here, I'm involved, and I'm ready to be a part of it. So, uh, welcome to my TED Talk. If you guys are still listening, I appreciate you guys listening this far. Again, this one was a little bit shorter. Mike wasn't able to make it on this one. Hopefully, going to have him on the next one. So we're all kind of recovering from Thanksgiving and our food comas. So shout out to Blackout Coffee. Again, I want to have a link to it in the description of this. If you are looking for some good coffee, Blackout Coffee is actually pretty decent. And you will get 20% off of your first order if you use code AUSTJ20. That's AUSTJ20 for 20% off your first order of Blackout Coffee. Plus, again, remember www.midtierthoughts.com, MID10, mid10 for 10% off your order. We've got some awesome stuff on there. Hoodies, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts, beanies, a couple glassware items, bunch of stuff. Go on there, check it out. See if there's anything that catches your eye. If there's something also too like you want to see, hit me up on Instagram with any thoughts, suggestions, criticisms. If you don't like it, you want different designs, if you think it's junk, whatever, let me know. I want to be able, me and Mike both want to be able to provide you guys like quality stuff. We want to be able to provide more than just the podcast as well for you guys. So we're also probably going to be doing a few more Instagram lives coming up soon. We've been talking about doing a giveaway, so stay tuned for that. We're trying to figure out exactly what we want to give away. How big how big do we want to go on day one, right? It's kind of the idea of that. So we're going to be doing some more lives kind of throughout the week probably. Still try to do an episode a week, but kind of fill in some of that mean time with going live and answering some questions, which will also give us the opportunity to maybe do a few more things we want to do from a visual perspective, over gear, guns, that kind of thing that we don't necessarily have the ability to do with the tech we have right now to be able to put out some good solid video stuff. So look forward to some of those. Other than that, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for stopping by. This has been Austin with another episode of Mid Tier Thoughts. Catch you on the next one.